Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Patriots Talk. It's your host, DTN. Along with me, I got my man, SGT Moonshine, as my co-host for today. How are we doing, buddy?
How's it going, guys? Glad to be here. Glad to talk more Patriots. I've got to fly my face. What the heck? Okay, go away.
Okay.
All right. Sorry for that distraction. But yeah, let's go Patriots. Let's get this talk going.
Let's get it going, guys. And today we're going to, as you can see the title, we're going to be doing our draft grades. And after all of that, we're going to be doing our top 5 UDFAs that we have signed and who we think that these UDFAs could at least make the 53-man roster by September. So without further ado, let's begin. So first off, we got Will Campbell. So I did not think that we would get. I did not think Will Campbell would be like at number 4, and I thought that we could have like traded down at least by like a few spots and get Will Campbell. But at least that you got your future left tackle to like secure the left side for a little bit and have at least your blind spot for Drake May. What do you think, Moonshine?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one right here just an A+. I mean, a double A+. This is literally the best pick. This is the literal definition of best player available, and a big need that we needed here on the offensive line. We need tackle depth. We really need offensive line depth. We just needed talent overall. Will Campbell coming in, I've seen some of his highlights. I've watched his video on his first day in New England. Dude just comes off being a leader. He's got like a really old soul. He seems like a very caring guy, but also knows how to get violent when he needs to get violent. I'm excited for Will Campbell. I'm glad we got him at 4. Do I think we could have traded and got him a little bit later? Possibly, but I'm glad they didn't take that chance because you just never know. Somebody might have traded up to get him instead. I'm glad we got him here at 4. It's an A+ for me. I love it.
I would also give it an A+ too. I did not, and considering that I was banging on the desk for like us getting a left tackle, and thank goodness the Patriots did not get a right tackle that could convert to a left tackle. That's like my biggest argument going forward. And I'm glad that we actually have a proven starting caliber of a left tackle instead of a right tackle that converts to a left tackle. And I just love his character. The fact that even though you have Morgan Moses to be your captain, since he has been a veteran for like I don't know how many years, but at least you have Will Campbell under his wing, so like he can learn how to be like a leader. So like moving forward, Will Campbell could be our team captain moving forward. He could be like the leader, the soul for our offensive line and for the offense as a whole. So I think I would also give this an A+. So I think that Andy is behind the stage right now, so I'll bring him in. Let's see what his thoughts are on Will Campbell. Andy, how are we doing, and what are your thoughts on Will Campbell?
We're doing very well, Dow. How are you today, my man?
I'm doing good. So, like, what are your thoughts on the Will Campbell pick, and what grade would you give him?
My thoughts on the Will Campbell pick are this. As no, I know, Dow, especially you might know, I initially was not a fan of Will Campbell. I wanted to trade down and take either Ted McMillan or the tight end of the pot, or Tyler Warren. But now I think here is a guy who the moment he drafted said he would die to protect his quarterback. And then I was listening to Sunday Kickoff yesterday, and Alex Barth was like, an O-lineman in the top 5 is not a flashy pick, but this year it was a necessary pick and was the best move for Drake May. You've got to, it doesn't matter how sturdy your quarterback is, how mobile your quarterback is. You've got to have an O-line, to protect him, allow your running, give running lanes for your backs, and, in the long run, allow your receivers to pass as well. So Will Campbell, I got to say this, the guy is gutsy, both literally and figuratively. This guy is a dog. I'm sure you guys both watched his college footage, and I heard that he helped see off Jared Verse from Jaden Daniels in 2023. That had to have been a task. So I've come pretty much full circle on Will Campbell. This draft pick gets an A from me.
Okay, that's perfect. I since everybody is on a consensus of giving an A, let's move on to the next pick, which you alluded to, Andy, about running back position. So we got TreVeyon Henderson as our second pick. So I'm gonna start off by saying that I was caught off guard when we got this guy. Like, my whole mindset in the second round was like, we either get wide receiver or an edge rusher. But the fact that Mike Vrabel and Elliot Wolf went best player available, I think that this guy, even though I think that he might have a little bit of an injury history, but I thought last season he played really well. He could be like your third down running back. He is at least like your pass catcher. He could be like your next James White. So I think that by getting another running back, because I just don't trust Ramondre Stevenson after his fumbling issues. Plus, Antonio Gibson may have like a lackluster season. So like getting a younger running back who is somewhat like a jack of all trades. He can block, he can pass, he can catch the ball, and he could like run the ball as fast as he can. I would honestly give this like I would also like give this an A in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, I'd probably go like an A minus. It was definitely a pick that caught me off guard as well. It was not really when I was thinking of like positions of need, thinking of like what we could get here that could really impact our team. I'm gonna be honest, running back was like the last thing on my mind because I guess I kind of like bought into how people see it across the league. Running back is like that, kind of like that luxury pick. If you really don't need anything else, you go running back to kind of help give yourself a little more of a boost on the offense. But I actually feel like now that I've had some time to like actually think about it and actually watch some of his highlights, I think the dude's a bit of a beast. He can shoot gaps just like straight up. He has like that one set speed, which for some reason a lot of people seem to see that as a bit of a negative. I don't really see it that way. I just see it as in like he accelerates quickly and gets out the gap and he hits his top speed in no time. And as long as those gaps are there, he gets to the second level, those secondaries, the corners, there's not a lot of guys that I can see trying to keep up with him and actually bringing them down on the ground. They might be able to stutter him, make him go out of bounds, but I don't see a lot of times this guy going on the ground in the second level. Overall, I would have to give this an A minus. I would have probably alluded to like you going edge, or maybe I probably would have tried to see if there was like a offensive guard or something at this pick. If not, maybe have traded back a little bit to see if there was one at a later pick that I would have liked there. Overall, not bad though. A minus, solid pick. Definitely going to help Drake May a lot.
100%. What are your thoughts, Andy, on the Henderson pick?
As Moonshine alluded to, I was taken aback by it at first too. I'm like, really, a running back? We've got Antonio Gibson and we've got Ramondre Stevenson. And then I started looking into his PFF grade, and again, as Moonshine alluded to, this guy's gap grade was like either a 91.4 or a 91.8. His overall PFF was let me just go back to here. His overall PFF in 2024 was an 88.4. 281 receiving yards.
You there?
I think Andy's like looking up like the
Oh, I thought he might have cut out, or maybe the stream was losing connection.
Yeah. I
think no, I'm sorry, man. So was I cutting out? I'm sorry.
Yes.
We didn't hear you for a minute.
Oh, so I was talking about like Moonshine, as you alluded to, his gap grade. I think it was like a 91.4. His overall grade was an 88.4. And this guy, how many running back? He had 281 receiving yards on top of just over 1,000 rushing yards. I think they played 12 games in the college season. I'm not mathing myself right now, but how many running backs can you name? Well, this is college football, who almost hit 300 passing yards, 300 receiving yards. That's pretty. Let me think. 12, 300 divided by, that's, again, I'm not mathing right now, but that's something else. I mean, this guy could be billed as a double threat. And I give it an A.
Okay, so I think that we can all agree that this. So my grade was an A, Moonshine's was an A minus, and Andy's was an A. So I think that we at least are in an agreement of like where TreVeyon Henderson's grade is as a pick value, and yeah. So let's now move on to like Kyle Williams as our next pick from the Patriots draft class, and I gotta say, I was a bit slightly skeptic about the pick when we got Kyle Williams. I thought like Jalen Noel or Jalen Royals was like on the board. He could be like one of your like better wide receivers. But when I saw his tape, Kyle Williams, he was like an underrated pick for me. I would like so for this pick, I would like give it like between like an A minus and a B plus because I thought like I when I saw his tape, his tape was like at least you have like a speedster in him. It's just that he had that I know he had that like one impressive like 1K season at Washington State. So I think that this guy with like the amount of speed and the fact that he has like one of the best separations, I think that this guy he could be like your next. He could be like he said he compared himself to like Steve Smith Sr., which was like really impressive considering that him under like Stephon Diggs, he could be like your slot, he could be like your X wide receiver. So I think that the versatility for Kyle Williams, I think that he could excel. We need to see like how he does in like training camp before we like jump to conclusions. So like what are your thoughts, Moonshine?
I was about the same as you. I remember we were watching it on draft night. We both seen that he came up on that pick when we had guys like Jalen Royals, and there was somebody else up there on the board that I was looking at too. When we see him get pulled up, the first thing in my mind, who is this guy? I had no idea who this guy was. He was not somebody that I was thinking was really even there. I started out with watching some of his highlights, or actually no, scratch that back. The first thing I started doing was looking at stats, like just seeing where all he played and like how he did as far as stat wise. And he played 3 years at Nevada, Las Vegas, and he played two. His last 2 years in Washington State, really blowing up in 2024, having almost 1,200 yards receiving in total in 13 games and 70 receptions. A lot of those, from what I've seen on highlights, were mostly from the short game. Like, from what I've seen, it was like the quick passes on the outside. I think I've seen a couple where he got some in the screen too. And he was just making people miss. He was shifting in and out. People were just like not able to grab him, falling off of him as he was running up towards the end zone. He could not get brought down. I'm going to give this overall probably just like a solid B, maybe B plus. Only reason I'm going there because I would like to give him close to an A minus, but the only reason I'm keeping it around a B is because it just seems like we have several of these kind of guys. Maybe not a panned out fully, but we do have quite a few of these kind of guys. It's the only thing that I just wasn't really sure if that was the really thing we needed right then and there. But watching the highlights, seeing his stats, he is definitely a solid piece. He's definitely gonna be some competition for this receiver room. It might finally wake some of these guys up who haven't been playing up to par, being like, "Oh, someone's performing. I need to start showing what I can do so I don't lose my job." That's really the most how I view this pick. He's a solid player, gives competition, and overall stud. I'm pretty excited to see what he does.
Okay, so So Moonshine gives us like around like a B or B plus. That's reasonable considering that you have so many wide receivers in that wide receiver room. But I think probably it's like best player available, or like some of like you need to have some like competition in the wide receiver room considering how underwhelming the wide receiver room is. So that it's kind of reasonable. What are your thoughts, Andy, on the Kyle Williams pick?
Kyle Williams, again, like Moonshine, I was like, um, I've vaguely heard of this guy, but there were bigger name guys still on the board. Like I know Jalen Knoll was still there. Yeah, so and then I started looking into his stats and I watched some video last night. The guy was either 14th or 15th. I think 15th in terms of yak overall with college receivers at 8.4. And he's a deep threat. 10th overall in deep. I forget if it was deep catches or deep yards, but either way, he's a deep threat, which is a guy we haven't had since, I don't know, Randy Moss. Edelman even wasn't really a deep threat. He was a pure slot receiver. So considering that I was a Knoll guy, that I was an Aya Maynor guy, I was disappointed to see when the Titans took him because he was one of my top, mid-round wide receivers. I'm going to give this pick, and we were thick at the position, if you know what I mean, but questionable at the position with McDaniels and Vrabel, and of course the new coaching staff. But I will give this Williams pick a very solid B plus. Again, because similar to you guys, because of the other guys who either were there or may have been available. Jalen Knoll is the only third rounder I'm thinking of right now, and the bodies, for all intents and purposes, that we already had at the position. Solid B plus for me on Kyle Williams.
Okay, so we're at least within the same area. So like just a reminder, mine was at least like a B plus or A minus. Moonshine's was like around like a B plus or a B, and then Andy's was like around like a B plus. So we're like around the same area. Let's now move on to Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia, and I gotta say, it was like he just like fell into our laps for some reason, considering that we could possibly need a center because I don't see Garrett Bradbury like being like one of our best centers, considering that he's good as a run blocker, but not good as a pass blocker. But when you have Jared Wilson, he was like ranked as like one of the best centers in the draft class, and considering that you got him within this value, I would considering giving him like at least like an A to like an A plus, considering that even though he may have like one season as a starting center, you at least have like a center within like a rookie contract, and then you have like another center for like some competition, or you also have like a center to another center for like you can have like some further development because he's like one of those raw centers. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, it's kind of just really how you said it. He was the pick that fell into our lap. He was the guy that really was expecting, if I remember in the reports correctly, he was projected around the second or third round. But I was hearing like maybe late second rounder was going to be where he was going to go. And we picked him up. I just read it on here. We picked him up at round 3, pick 95. I feel like we got really good value. If anything, I feel like he got a steal there. I watched some of his highlights. If I remember correctly, he is 6. I could be wrong on this. I can't remember exactly, and I can't find a tab where I found this at. But if I remember correctly, he was 6'3" at 315 pounds, if I'm remembering it correctly. And I just remember watching some of his highlights, and for one, he doesn't really look his size. More so, he's just like very he's very bulky. He's not like a bigger center that you would probably think. He's more bulky. And with that bulkiness, it just seems like he's able to move around more. He seems so fast coming off the snap. I would see him snap the ball, instantly getting his hands up, and just like keeping pace with whoever's in front of him, not missing a beat. He's got quick feet. He gets up quickly. His pass blocking definitely could use some work. But when it comes to the run game, he snaps that, he looks up, he's pushing somebody over. He's definitely definitely gonna lay the hit. As far as a grade, this is probably gonna be probably a B plus. Probably no. I'll go an A just because of the value. The value wise, we got a steal. As far as like the draft pick itself, it's a solid A. Needs a little bit of polishing, but overall, I'm happy for it. I'll give it a solid A.
Okay, what are your thoughts, Andy?
Jared Wilson. This guy, I have wanted him since the combine. And he ran a 4.84, which was the fastest among all centers. And I just looked up his relative athletic score. Usually RAS, it's not something that matters that much to me. His was a 998, which ranks second among 600 ranked. They've ranked 600 centers over the past, since 1987, so over the past 38 or so years. He ranks number 2 per relative athletic score among 600 centers. This kid is a beast. And like after Jared Andrews was released, David Andrews was released, I was like, center is almost as crucial a need as tackle now. I put out a little video. We signed Garrett Bradbury, but Garrett Bradbury is either of you know how old Garrett Bradbury is? I'm blanking on that right now.
I think he's around like 28 or 29 years old.
Okay, so late 20s. That makes sense. But yeah, anyway, Jared Wilson, very high RAS, that 4.8440. This pick gets an A from yours truly. And as Moonshine alluded to, Daniel Jeremiah had him ranked as his 55th overall prospect. We not only got him at pick 95 overall, we traded down twice to do it. So we got even greater value on the upcoming players, but that value is pretty high up on the list.
Okay, so we got like some reasonable grades. We got like somewhere like in the A's, but just a quick reminder. So like if you want to like hear all of our draft grades from like each of our prospects, I will be doing some chapter timestamps in the description down below. So like if you want to go back and see like what our respective grades are, so you can like skip forward and then just click on that timestamp so you can hear that specific drafts prospects grades. But let's move on to Craig Woodson, and this one I'm actually going to give this a low grade of a B minus or a B, I would say, because to start off day 3, I did not think that we're going to need a safety. I was considering that since we didn't come away with an edge rusher, so I thought that getting an edge rusher was like a huge priority for us on day 3. I just did not think that safety was like a main priority for us, because even though like Craig Woodson, he is like I don't know, like best player available, I just didn't think like Craig Woodson was like our huge priority. So I think that he was like more like a B or a B minus in my opinion, just because you might need a free safety since you don't have like a similar safety that Devin McCourty was, but I just think that you could have gotten him within like, I don't know, like towards the end of the beginning of the 5th round, or like towards the end of the 4th round. I just thought he was I think that you could have gotten him a little later, but then again, it is what it is. But I just want to give it a B minus. What do you think, Moonshine?
Yeah, when I first seen this pick, like me and you had both alluded to, it was something that really caught us off guard. It wasn't safety wasn't really something I was thinking about, but also really wasn't thinking about what type of safety he was. As soon as I seen him come up, and I'm like, why would they need to take this guy? Why would they need to take him here? So I decided to look him up as soon as the pick came up. I don't remember much stat wise, but I do remember like some small articles reading about him, and from what I can remember, he definitely showed signs of being more of that deep safety guy, the guy that can sit in the backfield on an island, watching the receivers, watching the QB's eyes, letting the play develop, and see where he can be the most use at, rather it be attacking in the middle, stepping up further back, and getting one of the boundaries. Or I think it was even a couple of times I've seen him like in man. I think I've seen him a couple of times go up against like a tight end, but I think it was a little success. Not too good in man. I don't think he's definitely more of that deep safety guy. As far as grade, this is probably gonna be my lowest grade. I'd probably give it a solid C just because it's not something I feel like we needed right here. I wanted that edge guy. You know who it is because we were both talking about him. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Yes, Jack Sawyer. And I know I brought him up a couple of times in Kobee's live. I couldn't remember his name. But yeah, I was thinking of getting him. I just felt like he would have been better value. He wouldn't have been a day one player, but he definitely would have developed, probably gotten some starts throughout the season. Greg Woodson, I don't know. We just got to wait. Honestly, that pick is something we have to wait on in like training camp, see who's all playing in that safety role because they tend to shift it around every year. Hopefully, we're able to get more stability, but I'll have to see exactly where he plays and how he plays in training camp, see what I hear from him to give a true grade. Right now, it's probably a C.
Okay, so Moonshine's is a C. What are your thoughts, Andy?
Craig Woodson. Unlike you guys, I had safety pretty high on my list of needs, right behind left tackle, wide receiver, and center, honestly. But I had it almost as high on my list as defensive end, although I would have slightly preferred defensive end with this pick. I just looked him up on PFF. There are 2 words, Vrabel guy. He plays with speed and aggression and attacks the line of scrimmage. I mean, and Mike Vrabel loves defenders who do that, and I think that's one of the reasons he wound up being the pick at what was this 106 overall?
Yeah,
I think so.
106.
Yeah, so the 3, it was the 40, something like the 404, the 405 anyway. For me, B minus C plus range. I probably lean more toward the B minus side of things here because safety rank is tied for the 4th need on my list. So I'm going to go B minus for Craig Woodson out of Cal.
Okay, so once again, we're like around the same age. Mine was like around like a B minus. Moonshine's was like a C plus or C, and then Andy's was like a B minus. Okay, so we got like some reasonable grades. So, but the next one, I think that it's gonna be really interesting. So we got Joshua Farmer, defensive tackle out of Florida State, and I gotta say, getting him at this value, that's actually a great value in my opinion, because even though you may have like some unknowns with like Christian Barmore's blood clots, even though it's confirmed that he is healthy enough to start for the season, I just think that getting like an insurance policy at defensive tackle may be like a priority for us, because there's some like uncertainties of like if Christian Barmore can remain healthy. So like him and Milton Williams as a duo, he could be destructive. And considering that getting him at this value is actually really good. even though Joshua Farmer, he might have some injuries as far as what I've heard, I just think that getting him at this value, I think that's like a great value. And the fact that you might want to strengthen the trenches, I think that I would give this like an A or to a like an A minus in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, this is just another one of those steals that we seem to be getting throughout this draft, man. We getting into those back ends like that day free going in around like 4 and 5. We've really got some steals. Couple in the third round, really. That's the theme of this draft. It'll just steal after steal or great value for great value. Not many of these picks really went off. The only ones I didn't really care for or didn't really think was needed at the time was the Craig Woodson that we just went over. But Joshua Farmer, I kept seeing the same comparison for him. I can't remember much of his stat-wise, but I kept seeing the same comparison over and over again from multiple people. And the same comparison I was getting is like, as far as like being pro ready or like his pro development, like to his max abilities or however you want to say, they were comparing him to a Christian Barmore himself. A guy that can just get into the line, stop runs right in their gap, has a little bit of pass rush to him from what I remember in the highlights, but he definitely doesn't have the speed or pursuit to really get there. Going to be more of like if you can close it up on the edges a little bit and make him step up in the pocket, he can definitely get a couple sacks that way. But he's definitely going to be more of your situational D-tackle where he's going to be playing more in the run. Could be some also insurance to help out in case of Christian Barmore. It is, as far as we know, he should be good. But this is like a just-in-case thing. And it's also depth. Gives you that familiar type of player. Whereas you have Milton Williams. I believe he's more of a pass rushing type of defensive tackle. I could be wrong on that. I haven't watched too much on him, and I don't remember much of last season from him. But as far as the grade I give for Joshua Farmer, given the value that he's at right here, I'm probably going to go a solid A. Just a solid overall depth piece. Definitely can learn from Milton and Christian Barmore. Even if Christian Barmore is not fully healthy to compete, he can still teach him a few things. Get him rounded out. I see this guy being pretty special. I really do. I'm going to give him a solid A. I see something special in this guy. He could definitely be something in our front.
Okay, what are your thoughts, Andy, on Joshua Farmer?
Honestly, not a guy I had done a lot of research into leading up to the draft. But after chatting with pardon me. After chatting with folks in the main chat, there were people who thought it's like, okay, we need to get, we have Milton Williams, but it wouldn't hurt us to get heavier on the D line. And Joshua Farmer does just that. I just looked at his PFF grade. It wasn't that great. It was like a 63.5. But does either of you know what his weight is off the top of your head?
I think it was 312, 313.
Somewhere like around that way. Somewhere like around
that makes sense. And his comp was Christian Barmore?
That's what I read from several places. Yeah, Christian Barmore.
Yikes. So, well, we obviously know we can't trust Christian Barmore with the blood clots, even if he is healthy to start the season. We don't know when he's going to go down. But, yeah, this guy, he was ranked as Daniel Jeremiah's 77th overall prospect, and we got him at, was it 137?
It was pick 144, the compensatory.
144, so a little bit lower. So, as Lawise Sage said earlier in the main chat, not quite double Daniel Jeremiah's big board, but darn close to it. Actually, darn close to double where Jeremiah had him. He fell that far. So this pick for me gets a solid B+.
Okay, so we're like around the same area. So those are like reasonable because we there's so much uncertainty about like Christian Barmore's health because obviously he's coming back healthier, but we're just gotta make sure that we at least have an insurance policy because if we didn't like draft a defensive tackle, we would have been stuck with Christian Barmore's health and we would have to go with somebody who might not be good. So I think that getting like him with this value, I think that's a steal. But let's move on to another steal. One of my favorite players, Bradyn Swinson, edge out of LSU. And I gotta say, the fact that even though Jack Sawyer and Kyle Kennard went off the board, this guy was like one of my favorite edge rushers within this value. And he was like projected to be like within the 3rd round. And the fact that he fell within the fifth round, I thought that he was a boss. He was like a dog. And the fact that he racked up like 8.5 sacks. He had like two forced fumbles, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at LSU. I think this guy is a dog. Even though he didn't look impressive at Oregon, he slowly got a lot better. And if he's used correctly under Terrell Williams, I think this guy's gonna be a beast. I would give this at least an A+, just because the fact that you get this value of getting an edge rusher. And I just think that even though we know that we wanted like Jack Sawyer and Kyle Kennard, I just think that getting Bradyn Swinson, I just think that he's a solid A+ for me. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, I think I got to agree with that whole A+ ranking because, dude, when I watched highlights of this, man, Jesus Christ, is he a monster on that edge, bro? As soon as that snap goes, he is explosive and he's attacking whoever's in front of him right then and there, getting by almost instantly, constantly being on the quarterback's rear end, fucking breathing right in his face, just always on top of him, just never letting up, relentless. This dude is just a dog, but there's also a bit of a catch-22 or a double-edged sword to that. One thing I noticed a lot he would do is when I would see some defensive plays, I'm trying to set up like defensive containment, or at least is what it looks like in some of the plays, or just trying to keep him in the box. There was some quarterback, I can't remember what his name was. He would constantly just like rush on the he'd be going up against the left tackle, rushing against them, powering right through. But all he would do is just straight attack. He wouldn't let up. He wouldn't give no eyes at a quarterback and would just let him get right by. I think he gets a bit of a tunnel vision when he starts to go sometimes. Like it's just he's going one way and it's just like everything else just kind of blanks out to him a little bit. He kind of loses focus for a minute. Other times I will see him. He'll like start attacking. He'll see like a quarterback moving in his peripheral, grab him, bring him down. But I did see a couple times where he would attack too much and the QB would get out of containment and would just run up for yards or get that play action down the field. But he is a dog. He is an attacker. He will run right through you if you let him. Overall, yeah, solid A. Dude's a beast. He's got to bring it down a little bit. He's got to know when to attack and when to like hold it a little bit. Otherwise, some of those dual threats like a Lamar Jackson or a Jalen Hurts is going to burn right by him every time.
Okay, what are your thoughts, Andy, on Bradyn Swinson pick?
Bradyn Swinson, let's see here. Again, key need here, defensive end, edge player. Great value. 87th for Daniel Jeremiah. We got him in the... Was this in the one... What was he again, Moonshine?
His draft pick that we got him at?
Yeah.
I think it's like a 146.
146, yeah.
146. Okay, I was going to say 147, but key need, really good pass rusher. Grade was like a 91. He does need to work, like you said, Moonshine, on run defense. He graded out at a 69. something per PFF. So, which means your Josh Allen's, your Lamar Jacksons, they're we don't want those big mobile quarterbacks running right by him. But if anybody is going to work on if anybody is going to zero in on his run defense technique, it's Mike Vrabel, because he knew how to take Tom Brady. What's up?
I said 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't exactly. Well, he knows that we already know Mike Vrabel knows how to take Tua Tagovailoa out of a game, and he's a mobile quarterback. And we haven't. I still think we have yet to win a game against that sucker. We now have a coach who knows how to beat him, and if he can train Bradyn Swinson to defend the run, that defense is going to be that defense could be top 6, 7 in the league, possibly. So Bradyn Swinson for me will get an A-.
Okay, so that's good. At least if it's in the A range. I think that Bradyn Swinson, he could be that guy. But with proper development under Terrell Williams and Mike Vrabel, I think this defensive line will be destructive. So now let's move on to the kicker, Andreas Borregales, kicker out of Miami. And I know that we need a kicker, but I just think that it was slightly of a reach of getting a kicker, because I think that you could get like a kicker within the UDFA or like within the 7th round, like towards the very end of the 7th round. But the fact that he is like one of the best kickers available, and the fact that he was like almost perfect with like field goal percentage, and he was like 100% with the extra points, I would give this a solid B, just because that, yes, kicker is a priority considering the fact that you need some kicker competition, and the fact that you lost Joey Slye to in free agency, and your only kicker available is John Parker Romo. So I think that getting a kicker, I think, is really important. But I would get him in the 6th round. I wouldn't think so. I would have like gotten him in the 7th round. So I would give this a solid B. I just think that there are some other needs like left guard and maybe like a developmental tight end could be like into the mix. But the fact that you needed a kicker, I just think that you need some competition. I would give this, and like I said, I would give this like a solid B. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, at first I wasn't too sure how to feel about this guy. There wasn't that other kicker, Ryan Fitzgerald, if I remember his name correctly. I was heavy set on probably us getting him late in the 7th rounder. Was not expecting to take Andreas, and definitely wasn't expecting to take him when he did. But I do remember also looking at some of his stats as well. And like you alluded to, he was accurate nearly all 4 years. He was doing kicks from I think his longest kick last year was like a 56-yarder, and he made over half of them last year, I believe. I think he had like double digits in the 50-yard range or 50 plus last year, and he hit over half of them. And he as far as I can remember, they were extremely. I can't find a tab. I have like so many tabs open on my computer. I can't find the one where I had all years and like his like the ranges and stuff. But he is a very accurate kicker. I do feel like we're going to be getting something good out of him. The only thing I wonder is how he's going to play in the cold. But as far as weather conditions, he played in Miami. We know he can play in the heat at least. Probably play in a good bit of rain. Probably some decent winds. I'm pretty sure he does good in all those. The only thing I'm wondering about is how he does in the cold. But as far as a grade, this one's tricky for me. I think I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna have to go B plus. Simply because I mean he is a great value I think he's a great value for where he is. I can't remember where he's projected, but he's super accurate and from far distances. I just feel like he probably would have been there maybe a little bit later, or maybe could have gotten Ryan, which if I remember correctly, if I could talk, he was the best regarded kicker in the class. I don't think he was taken yet. But other than that, overall, definitely happy with it. Definitely happy to see what he does. Going B+.
What are your thoughts, Andy?
Andres Borregales, kicker out of Miami. Right before I came on, I was listening to I'm going to give a, before I say this, I'm going to say I like the pick. In fact, I love the pick. You know, we need a kicker and kickers have to be accurate. But as they were saying on the draft party over on Patriots Press Pass, special teamers, kickers grow on trees. I mean, you can sign them as UDFAs. You can grab them from the UFL, the CFL. I mean, you know, these guys are just like, they're like weeds. They're growing up everywhere. This and the guy we picked a couple of picks later are very Belichickian, as you might know. Although Belichick was famous for taking special teamers way earlier than they were either projected to go or than when teams normally draft them. So this guy, what's going to make me give this a B+ grade is his workouts. Not his workouts on his pro day. He nailed a 65-yarder.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Damn.
Yeah. So, he's got, and like you said Moonshine. At least half his kicks were from 50 yards last year.
No, like half of his kicks that he kicked or that he attempted from 50+ were made. I can't remember exactly. I can't find a tab where it had like all 4 years, where it had like his ranges from like 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59. I can't find that tab, and I can't find that website where I seen it at, but it had to be like over half of them that he attempted from the if I remember correctly, it was 8 for 12. If I remember correctly, it was 8 for 12 from 50+. I could be wrong on that, but I know it was like over half of his attempts he made.
Yeah, that's a really good percentage. The guy has a major leg. So, and you could argue kicker is a need. Like you said, Moonshine, or hinted at, we could have gotten one as a UDFA. But over, bigger needs were guard, maybe not so much wide receiver, but definitely, was it right guard or left guard? We're really looking at left guard.
I think it's left guard. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's definitely left guard.
Yeah,
I think it's a competition between like City So and
Layden Robinson. I don't know.
Yeah,
Layden Robinson. Yeah. So I would have gone right guard or left guard or maybe even tight end here, but Andres gets a B+ from me. I like the pick.
So at least we're like within the same area of like our thoughts on this kicker. But let's now move on to this left tackle out of Missouri, Marcus Bryant. So I haven't digging too much on this guy, considering the fact that he is a left tackle. But I love what Mike Vrabel was thinking. But before I give my grade, I just want to say that the fact that Mike Vrabel in his introductory press conference said that he wants to build up from the trenches, and the trenches is what wins games. And the fact that this guy, you need some left tackle depth, even though we already have a left tackle, Will Campbell. I just think that getting like left tackle depth because is really important, because last season we had like at least 2 tackles on our roster, and it was so barren that we desperately needed some left tackle depth. So I would give this a solid B+, just because I think that getting a left tackle, another left tackle, it could be like an insurance policy. So like if either Will Campbell goes down or if he doesn't like perform to his potential at being a left tackle, which I don't see that happening. I think that he could be like your insurance policy. He could be like a left tackle 2 in my opinion, because obviously we do not want to see another season of Adarian Lowe as far as I'm concerned. So I would give this a solid B. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, so for this pick, I mean, it's pretty good value from what I'm reading on the draft projection for him. He was projected somewhere in the 6th and 7th round, and we got him in the 7th round at pick 4. So it's pretty decent value, a prospect grade of almost a 6 flat, saying an average backup or special teamer. I didn't really know too whole lot about this guy. I didn't do too much research on him until recently. He seems pretty solid. He's definitely just going to be more of a depth piece right now, kind of a project left tackle. He's got the tools. He really just needs reps and to develop consistency with his forms, his techniques, just being on the line, getting his hands right. He's got all that he needs. He is a specimen that you need for a left tackle. He just needs a little bit more development from what I'm reading. He's got some solid techniques that he needs to just retool and fit into the NFL level. And he just needs to develop consistency with those tools once he learns them. If he can develop good, he can make a solid depth left tackle. Like, he can make a really solid one in case Will Campbell goes down. But that's all depending on the effort that he puts in. We'll find out for sure when he comes to training camp and all that. As far as a grade, I think I'm gonna go a B. It's just nothing more than a depth piece right now. That's really all it is, and it really doesn't need to be any more than that. It's just depth piece in case Will Campbell goes down, and hopefully he's not going to go down anytime soon. Knock on wood. I don't have any wood around me. Somebody please do it for me. Thank you. Yeah, I'll go B. That'd be my grade.
Okay, what are your thoughts, Andy, on the Bryant pick?
I've hardly done any research on him, but like Moonshine said, he is a developmental guy, and we have Doug Marrone coaching up the offensive line now. So, God, like you said, Moonshine, God forbid Campbell goes down. He's a sturdy guy. He shouldn't. But, we do have that insurance guy, and that's really good after last year's circus on the outside of the offensive line. You bring in Chuks Okorafor, and he craps the sheets practically in one game. Vidarian Lowe, obviously, Vidarian blows. If you haven't heard me use that nickname for him, I mean, he did have that one touchdown pass, but it's like the one good thing he's done in 2 years. He's a penalty machine too. So, yeah, I like. Gosh, I'm even forgetting the Bryant. I like him as an insurance guy, and we need the positional value at left tackle. So my grade on this is A, considering coaching and considering how important the position of left tackle is in the NFL and how few premium ones there are. Not that he is. Definitely in the B range. Definitely in the B range. Leaning slightly toward B minus.
Okay. I just think that there could be other options, but I think that here is at least left tackle is a important position, if I'm not mistaken, even though the O-line as a whole is a huge priority. I just think that left tackle is also important. So now that Doug Marrone is our offensive line coach, I can't wait to see how he's used within in the second teams, if he's good in preseason. So we need to see how he performs in training camp, so he can be our depth, so he can be a useful depth option. He could be a backup, just if any of our O linemen go down, you have at least a backup plan.
or even use him as a floating, see how he works in training camp. Use him as a floating offensive lineman. Like we've talked about till the cows come home about moving left to right. You don't want to try that. But if you shift him inside to, if it comes to shift him inside to guard, then you have, possibly a number of guys you could go with at that position. And I've heard that that Wilson has played a little bit of guard as well. So we've got a little bit of we could have some depth at the middle of the O line, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I love that insurance policies. So now let's move on to the second to last pick. We have Julian Ashby, long snapper out of Vanderbilt, and I gotta say, I was not a huge fan of that pick, if I'm being honest. Like, there are some other positions we could have got, like within like more depth at the offensive line, or maybe possibly of getting a positional tight end. But long snapper, I was not a huge fan of this pick. There are stories or articles saying that he's like one of the best long snappers, and that you can like get him for within like the UDFA. And I'm not like hating on this pick, and I think that long snapper may be a priority. I just did not think that getting him with like in the 7th round would be like my ideal choice. So I would give this a C plus, just because I just don't know about this pick. Like if he outperforms Joe Cardona in training camp, I think that he could be like your long-term solution, even though like I know that Joe Cardona, he has suffered some injuries and he's getting up in age, so obviously you might need a long snapper, but I just think that you can get him in the UDFA. What are your thoughts, Muchai? Because I'm not a huge fan of this pick.
I mean, there's really nothing to say other than really what it is. A long snapper. It's just something to help out on special teams. Did we take one in the draft? That was something I really wasn't expecting. But I feel like with Vrabel and this staff, if they felt a need, with all the other decisions they made up until this point in the offseason, taking this long snapper here, I'm going to be honest, I'm not too worried about it. But I am questioning why they would draft one. From what you said, apparently he's one of the best long snappers that has ever played at long snapper. And granted, our special teams, it didn't improve last year, but the years before that wasn't really all that great. It hasn't been that great. 2021, 2022, somewhere around that range, if I remember correctly. But it's been a weakness for us, and any way we can to help in any form of the team, even if it's at special teams, you get somebody that's playing as a long snapper that may not have as much experience or as not specialized. That could be like your one mess up to like kicking a field goal to win a game just from a botched snap. So I mean, he is what he is. I mean, granted, do I think we needed to draft him there? No, but I'm not mad at it. I just feel like they're doing everything they can with this draft to improve us as much as possible. Really, this whole offseason, they're looking for anybody possible, even if it's a specialized role as a long snapper. Not going to hate on it. I'm going to trust the process on this one. They haven't given me any reason not to yet with how this entire offseason has been. But as far as the position itself and the value of it, when was it? I done forgot. At pick 251?
I think so. Yeah, 251.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's the compensatory pick from the Chargers. I'm really not sure how to give a ranking for this, but I'm just gonna give it a B. It's positional. It's really just it's really just them. I feel like in their eyes, it's getting everything they possibly can to help make this team better, even if it's a specialist long snapper. Because like I alluded to before, all it takes is a botched snap to mess up a kick that can cost us a crucial game. We had a lot of those in the past couple years. I'd rather not see another one. Let's hope this puts us in the right direction to keep that from happening ever again.
Interesting. What are your thoughts, Andy, on this long snapper?
I have been more or less bashing the Julian Ashby pick since it happened. But we have, for the longest time, it felt like special teams was a strength of the Patriots, even heading into, the beginning of 2023, Bill Belichick's last year. The past year and a half, though, special teams has fallen completely off the rails, well into the bottom half of the league. So, but also a long snapper, I mean, you didn't need to draft one. You could have waited till UDFA. Joshua Gray was there, the guard out of, I'm forgetting his school right now, but
Oregon State.
Oregon State. Oh, Joshua Gray?
Yeah.
I guess that vaguely rings a bell, Oregon State. And of course, here I am going along with these fans and say, oh my gosh, is Belichick back? If this is of interest to you, it was pointed out to me that his 10-yard split was faster than Roma Dunze, who's known as a speedy wide receiver. So, and granted, we do need to bring some. He did. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that post, Luke. I'll take a look at it later. So hopefully this will get, between this and Borregales, get our special teams back on track. And it's, was it Springer is our special teams coach?
Yes.
So all things considered, I will bump Julian Ashby, based off of what I just said, from a C to a B minus.
Well, we shall see, because if Ashby performs well than how Joe Cardona performs, then I will bump my grade at least to like a B minus. But we shall see, because I think at the end of the day, Chris makes out a really good point. It's like at the end of the day, I love the direction Vrabel and company are taking the team. I feel confident saying things are definitely getting better, and I agree that obviously that Joe Cardona, he was more of a Belichick pick. I think this guy, he's more of a Vrabel pick, because I think he's like cleaning up everything, getting just like bringing in his guys that think will succeed and will do great for the team than what has been going on for like the past couple of seasons. So
also Cardona, sorry to cut you off, though. Also Cardona is 33, if you want to consider that.
Yeah, he is 33. So basically coming off, so he's getting old, even though I just think that you need some young talent, but also at least guys who can massively perform within that position. But let's quickly move on to the final pick before we give our like overall grade on this whole entire draft. But let's talk about Kobee Minor, Mr. Irrelevant. I don't know about this pick. Like I could have said we could have gone left guard or tight end, but I just think that when I look at his stats, he did Kobee Minor out of
hardly anybody knows who he is.
Exactly. But I just think that when I saw his stats, he racked up 2 sacks and 2 fumbles, so 2 forced fumbles, so I'm at least okay with it. But at least he could be like your depth guy, or at least he could like perform well for like within like the special teams. At this point he's just like depth for like the cornerback position, because obviously you did sign Carlton Davis to like a 3-year deal, and you bring back Alex Austin. You at least still have Marcus Jones. So I think that this guy at this point, he's like depth piece at this point. And to be honest, I would give this at least a C. At this point, this is just like a depth piece for our roster. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Yeah, pretty much the same. He's got some decent stats. I do see where he got the 2 sacks last year playing in Memphis. He had a 5-year career, having 3 years at Texas Tech before going to Indiana in 2023, and then 2024 he went to Memphis for his senior year. There's not, other than the stats that I found, I haven't really seen anything that kind of like tells me a little bit about him or like how his games have went. I haven't seen much as far as a profile from like anywhere, not even any of the schools he went to, unless I'm just not looking in the right place. But he's essentially how you just said, just a depth piece. I really don't. He's Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. I'll say that. I mean, I don't know that much about him. I really don't. And I've been trying to look a little bit into him, and I'm not finding much other than some of his stats. It's really it. Overall, I'll probably go C-. I mean, it's really just a depth piece. I don't really know where else you were going to use it. I just don't know much about the guy to really give any fair value evaluation other than some of the stats that I'm seeing. And I'm probably going to have to go C-.
What are your thoughts, Andy, on this Mr. Irrelevant pick?
Well, as somebody said the other day, he puts the minor in minor. This guy is a nobody, as cliche as that term is. He's a glamour pick. We didn't really need a cornerback, considering we have Gonzo and
Davis,
the guy from Detroit.
Yeah,
thank you, Carlton Davis. And not to mention, at least one of the Joneses, I think, still who?
Marcus Jones, Alex Austin,
Marcus Jones. Alex Austin, yeah. Yeah, this pick, to be honest, I've done no research on him. Considering the position, he was the last pick of the draft. But considering the position, the guard was still there. I mean, even Xavier Restrepo. The guys who went undrafted, we could save them for another show, because Xavier Restrepo going undrafted was a shocker. C. I mean, I could even go as low as D+ with this, but to be fair, I mean, for a glamour guy, we're going to go C. C as in cornerback.
Yeah, that's a reasonable pick. I would have gone, to be honest, to like before we like get into the overall grade and then move on to like our top 5 UDFAs we signed. I just think that we could have got someone else like cornerback. Yeah, you can still get depth in them, but I just think that there's other positional needs, like for example, potentially of a tight end. Even though we did sign in the UDFA, it would have been nice if we at least drafted a developmental tight end or maybe a left guard, just so that you have more depth and you at least have some development for like the future. And that's just my honest thoughts. But that concludes of like our separate grades for like all of our 11 picks. So like now we're gonna move on to the overall draft grade. So like for me, considering of all the 11 picks, I would give this more like an A-. I would have given an A+ if Vrabel like nailed on like some of the other positions besides long snapper and cornerback. I would have gone like if Vrabel Wolf went for like tight end or maybe like left guard or maybe like some depth and like the defensive line, I would have been a little more happy and I would have bumped it to an A+. But for me, I would like give it an A-. What are your thoughts, Moonshine?
Considering how the entire draft played itself out, probably going to give it a solid A. The only thing that I just didn't really care for too much throughout this draft, other than maybe the Mr. Irrelevant pick, I just haven't really done much research on him. I'm sorry. But probably be Craig Woodson at 106 in round 4. I would have rather gotten that edge instead of going Craig Woodson here. I feel like if we would have went edge there, rather have been in Kenneth, or if it had continued to be Bradyn or Jacob, Josh, what was his name? I keep forgetting his name.
Jack Sawyer.
Jack Sawyer, yes. I keep wanting to say Jacob or Josh for some reason. But yeah, so I would have rather gotten Jack Sawyer there. And I feel like Craig probably would have been there at 144. I honestly do. I think we might have even had a Sooner pick and we just traded, but I don't remember for sure. Can't remember everything that happened in the draft. Other than that, overall, solid A. Love our number 4 pick, our number 38, our 69. Our 95 is a definite steal. 106, I'm okay. 144, I'm great. 146, steal. 182, solid. 220, solid. And then the last two, 251, 252. They're depth pieces. They'll contribute in their own way somehow, some way. But yeah, I'll go A.
What grade would you give Andy for like the whole entire draft?
My volume's on the fritz. So right after the draft, I was gonna say B. After we went long snapper and then cornerback, and I bumped that down from an A because those picks had disappointed me so much. But I've done some reevaluation, and my guy, Daniel Jeremiah, had Woodson ranked had Woodson in his top 100 guys, which almost nobody else did. His average ranking was like 197. So it could be argued he was the only overdraft of the entire class. And I think I gave him like a C+. But I mean, considering how much Will Campbell went up in my mind, considering how our first 4 picks were on offense. You got a solid defensive end. You did solidify the middle of your defensive line. Could have gotten another defensive end. We picked some guys up in UDFA, which is another topic. But when you roll it all together, A- for me on this draft class.
Okay, so basically, for me it was A-. Moonshine's was an A, and then Andy's was A-. So now that concludes all the draft grades, and now let's briefly move over to the top 5 UDFAs before we conclude for this session. So basically, we have a list of some of our UDFAs that the Patriots signed. I'm just gonna list them all out, and then at the end, we're just gonna work together and work on who the top 5 of the Patriots should at least make the roster, or at least maybe top 3. I may have want to change the title, but let's just give it top 3 to top 5. So the list we have Cam Riley, linebacker out of Florida State, Jack Connolly, offensive line out of Boston College, Leon Larson, running back out of UC Davis.
Yeah.
Then we have Brandon Crossley, cornerback out of SMU, Josh Minkins, safety out of Cincinnati, wide receiver Demir Blankumsey out of Memphis, fullback Brock Lamp out of NIU, Cole Burdo, I don't know how to pronounce his name, out of Merrimack, Efton Chisholm, wide receiver out of Eastern Washington, Ben Wooldridge, quarterback out of Louisiana, G. Scott Jr., tight end out of Ohio State, Tight end, C.J. Dupree out of Alabama. Defensive line, Wilfred Penney out of Virginia Tech. Wide receiver, Jeremiah Webb from South Alabama. We have Jordan Polk, safety out of Texas State. Elijah Ponder, edge out of Cali Polytech. Hector Jones, defensive line out of Endicott. Dwayne Martin, fullback out of Louisville. And we conclude with defensive tackle Bryce Gainish. I'm not going to pronounce his last name, out of Wake Forest. So those are all of our UDFAs that we have signed for right immediately after like the draft. So like, who do you think our favorite UDFAs are that would be considered to make the 53-man roster? I'll start with you, Moonshine.
So I got 3. I have brought them up to you multiple times. I got 3 guys that are like my top 3 that if there's names that I'm going to be watching in training camp, maybe if possible in preseason, definitely going to be these 3. I'm going to start out with the running back from UC Davis, Lan Larison. And he seems to be the most talked about out of all of our UDFAs, at least from what I've seen. I got a little bit here, notes on him wise. Lan Larison is 6 foot flat at 215. He played at the college level all 5 years at UC Davis, and he holds a school record for the single season all-purpose yards, which totaled out to be 2,387. And he also got the career all-purpose yards that same year with 6,504 in 1 year. That's between rushing and receiving. Like he was his first 2 years were kind of subpar, having like 60 carries in total on that, somewhere around there, 55, 60. And then like his last 2 years, he just exploded. I don't know if he was behind somebody at that time, but his last 2 years, he just exploded, had like over 1,000 rushing yards both years and several receiving yards. He was just an overall beast, and he's Mr. Highlight Reel. I don't know what else to call him, bro. Like when I watched his highlights on YouTube, it was like I think a 9-minute video. It was just highlight after highlight. Him constantly getting on the open field, breaking tackles left and right, like 3 or 4 tackles straight. And then sometimes, like when he would go out for receiving, there'll be times the quarterback would throw it a little too far. He just catch that thing one-handed like it was no big deal. And then another one where it really, for me, showed like his concentration and focus on the ball, where he was having to catch the ball on the boundary side. And he was coming out, I think it was a wheel route, had a defender right in front of his face. He focused on the ball, caught it on his lower hip, if I remember correctly, and planted his toes before he went outside of the out of bounds. And he just did all that with like what seemed like no effort at all. Like he just did it like it was just another random day, like another play. Dude is I'm loving what I've seen out of this guy. I'm really hoping he can shine in training camp. I'd love to see, if there's anyone I'd love to see make the roster, it is Lan Larison out of UC Davis. 100%. As far as number 2, I got, this one would be a lot more trickier. This is probably going to be like my number 3, but I'm going to go ahead and get to him first. Would be Efton Chisholm out of Eastern Washington. Coming out at 5'11" at 200 pounds. He played at the college level for 5 years, from 2020 to 2024, playing Eastern Washington his whole career. Throughout his career, he played in 53 games, and he got a total within all those games. Within those games, he totaled up to 3,852 yards on 346 receptions. A second all-time reception record. Not sure if it's for the school, the division, conference, however they do it in college ball. I don't watch college ball that much. I'm sorry. But he ranked second all-time reception record. Had a second all-time reception record only behind Cooper Kupp. And 37 touchdowns in his best year, which is last year. Which in his last year, he played in 12 games, 1,300 yards. And I forget how many touchdowns. 13 touchdowns. And one last thing I want to say about him. he did also break a record of Cooper Kupps. I'm guessing Cooper Kupp went to Eastern Washington. I'd have to have somebody fact check me. I'm not entirely sure on that one. But he broke a record for most games with a reception. Cooper Kupp's being at 52. And then Efton Chisholm coming in at 53. 53 straight games having a reception every single game. So he gets open. He's definitely able to. Struggles a little bit at times. He's definitely somebody you're going to see more like in a flat route. Nothing too fancy. Going down in an out route, getting some quick separation to maybe catch a first down or something, or maybe need to stop the clock or something if we're out of timeouts. The main thing that sticks out to me is like his receptions. Like he caught so many catches. It shows that he's a solid target, a safety blanket, a security blanket. If you need somebody to catch the ball, like you just need to throw it in a general direction. As long as he's gotten past his man, which we'd have to see him do, if he can get past his man, Drake may have none to worry about throwing it his way. And now for the last one of mine, which is a defensive player this time, would be cornerback Brandon Crosley out of SMU. He played at the college level for 6 years. I think he's like 23, 24 years old. I'm not entirely sure. But he played 1 year at CSU and 5 at SMU. And throughout his career, he played in a total of 66 games, totaling up at 146 tackles, 105 solo, 41 assists. And 12 of those tackles managed to get a loss of yards and 6 interceptions throughout his entire career. The main thing about him that kind of stuck out to me is just really he's got some versatility between cornerback and safety. It was his first 2 years, I believe, at SMU. He made the switch to safety because they needed depth there, and they had depth at the cornerback spot, if I remember correctly. Then his last 2 seasons, he went back to or his last season went back to corner. My bad. I have my notes kind of jumbled up for some reason, but he's got experience at corner and safety, so I see him as being a versatile piece. If he can be another one of those guys that be a battle for the safety spot just to give us some extra competition, certainly wouldn't mind it. Wouldn't mind him being in the room either, like having him on the 53-man roster as a kind of having one of those guys that can switch from DB to safety, whether it be free safety or maybe in the box. I don't know if he can play in the box. I've definitely seen him more playing deep, but I think he could play in the box because he does have a bit of a heavy hit to him at times if he's trying to knock the ball out of your hands. If you're just getting ready to catch it, I've seen a couple times he give a good hit stick. But other than that, that's really my 3 guys. Those are the guys that I'm definitely going to be eyeing in training camp 100%. I wouldn't be surprised if Land definitely, though, could make the 53-man roster. I'll even call it right now. I think he has a solid shot at making the 53-man roster, 100%.
What are your thoughts, Andy? Who are your top 3 UDFAs that could possibly make the 53-man roster?
First of all, shout out to Sergeant Moonshine for all your research. I wish I could do all of that. Alas, here we are.
I did this.
I do go on
real quick. I did this all yesterday from 12 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. 8 hours straight. 8 hours straight. Going on a couple breaks here and there, but for the most part, just that entire time, I was doing research, going to every website I could.
Look at you.
Every name, everywhere I could go that could give me some notes. I'll have to send it to y'all in Discord or something because I have it on Microsoft Word for an offensive side and a defensive side, and I still don't even have everybody yet. There's still 6 guys I still got a list on, so that's gonna be fun.
That'd be awesome, man. So I have the same 2 guys. I have 2 of the same guys as you. Lan Larison. I just say I watched the highlight reel last night. That guy's 85-yard run. I know he doesn't play in exactly a top-tier conference, but whoa. His highlight reel it's just run. He runs fast. He breaks tackles. You know, it seems like there's nothing the guy can't do. He's a jack of all trades. Chisholm, let me just say this. Chisholm and Larison both should have been drafted. Chisholm had over 1,300 receiving yards this past season. I wasn't aware of that whole Cooper Kupp thing, who, by the way, is out of Eastern Washington.
Okay.
No problem. He was, of course, drafted in the fifth round too. So
Yeah.
But no, my eyes lit up when I saw we'd signed Chisholm. Where we differ is on the third guy. I'm going C.J. Dupre, the tight end out of Alabama. And although his numbers are not great, he only threw down a 60 per PFF. Tight end was a position I thought we should have targeted in the draft, and we didn't. Again, one of the reasons I'm giving the overall draft grade an A-. If we include UDFA, I could bump that up to an A. There were some tight ends I was looking at. It really surprised me that the Bears went Colston Loveland. Can I just sidetrack here? It surprised me that the Bears went Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Super quick.
I don't even remember that, if I'm going to be honest. I really don't. I was getting so drained out because I was just waiting for the last pick of the Patriots, and they would keep trading back. I was like, bro, I need to go to bed. I am tired. I want to go to bed. But they just kept trading back. And it's just, bro, I think it was around like the early 7th round. I was just like, I'm done. I can't no more. I'm done.
No, I was working. So it was, what? But
it was so like, just, bro, stop. Just stop trading back, please.
Stop trading down. Exactly. So anyway, where we diverge there is I went with that tight end out of Alabama, maybe because it's, more or less a position of need. Derrick Henry is getting up there in years. I like Austin Hooper, but this could be, bringing Dupre in could make for a real. I'm really interested to see the positional battle, especially at wide receiver, but also at, with bringing Dupre in at tight end. We're going to have a legit pass catcher battle, and it's going to be awesome. There's not going to be this, stupid, quarterback kerfuffle or, which kicker? Is it going to be Folk or is it going to be Chad Ryland? And again, back to Chisholm, Edelman light. He's a slot receiver to a T. But yeah, those are my three guys: Chisholm, Larison, Dupre.
Those are some reasonable picks, but for me, I'm actually going a different route. So, I agree with the Larison pick, considering that he was a beast, and I am surprised that he didn't get drafted. And considering that we get him within the UDFA, that's really good. Considering that you may need some running back depth, because Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, they might have regressed. And even though you got TreVeyon Henderson, you may want a backup plan. And the fact that if Larison strives in the training camp and preseason, this guy is 100% making it to the 53-man roster. With Chisholm, this guy, I did not see that coming. I really did not see him get the fact that we got him in UDFA. And when I saw your stats, the stats, Andy, on him, I was like,
how did he not get drafted? How did he not get drafted?
I really don't understand it either. When I seen the stats, I'm like, bro, why is this dude here? Kind of like Lane Robinson. I get it was a deep running back class, but I was just like, why are you here? Why are you here?
Are you talking about Larison? I'd never even heard of Larison before we signed him.
I hadn't either, but that's the thing. It was when I seen the stats and seen his highlights and stuff, and I'm like, just Nobody's seen
it's
this
like
and be like, this could be a developmental piece that could turn into a star.
Dupre, you understand why he went undrafted. Especially you look at the numbers and you're like Chisholm and Larison. I was listening to Sunday Kickoff the other day. Depending on how things go, Barth thinks 3 or 4 of these guys could potentially be roster locks. I mean, they're that good, or they're not that good. They could be diamonds in the rough. They could be a Malcolm Butler. They could be a Chandler Jones. Or was he undrafted? I think he was.
No, yeah,
They
I think he
could
was like in
be
the first round.
what?
Chandler Jones was in the first round in 2020.
Oh, he was? Shoot.
If you're maybe like JC Jackson, because he was also undrafted.
JC Jackson, yeah. We had some other undrafted guys. The only one I'm thinking of off the top of my head is Malcolm Butler. I know there were others. Jared Andrews. I called him Jared again. David Andrews. David Andrews. Thank you. But there probably is a diamond in the rough in that UDFA class, and it could be somebody none of the 3 of us has ever heard of.
Yeah, but I also agree with the Chisholm pick, considering that he could be like a beast. Like, since this is a wide receiver competition, and if this guy stands out to us like within training camp and possibly in the preseason, if he racks up like I don't know how many touchdowns under Joshua Dobbs, this guy is 100% a loss rock. He could be like a depth piece for us. Like if like one of our best wide receivers goes down and this guy thrives within our offense, this guy is sure he's definitely going to be a Pro Bowler sooner one day. But my third option is actually going to be a lot different than both of your picks. I'm actually going to go with fullback Brock Lamp out of NIU, considering that you might need some fullback. And when I saw his stats, so basically even though he had 14 yards rushing and he had 1 rushing touchdown, he did have 91 yards and a touchdown and 9 receiving catches. I just think that this guy, he's a fullback, and Josh McDaniels loves to thrive within his fullbacks. Like when we had Jakob Johnson, when we had James Devlin, these guys were really awesome. And the fact that you might want to get a fullback just so that you can have somebody to block somebody rather than just TreVeyon Henderson, so that when you get a fullback, Drake May doesn't have to get hit, and that you have at least some more protection than just our core O-line. So I think that Brock Lamp could be like a sneaky guy that could actually make it to the 53-man roster, considering that we haven't used a fullback in like God knows how long. So it's nice to, with Josh McDaniels being back, and now that the fullback position has been revived, I think that getting a fullback it's also crucial. So I think that fullbacks are making a comeback. I just love the usage of fullbacks.
Yeah, definitely Josh McDaniels definitely knows how to use like his backfield personnel, his running backs, his power backs, receive. He comes to being like, to me, a jack of all trades when it comes to situations for each type of running back. Like he always makes sure he has a running back for a certain situation from years past with like Brandon Bolden, Sony Michel, Devin White or James White. Just so many guys they've had in the same room, a different style.
Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, Rex Burkhead too. Thank you for it. Just different kinds of different running backs, and he just put them in situations where they all could eat, where they all could succeed a little bit, where they could all contribute. And I really do like that, because it's also going to take a lot off of Drake May's plate. He's not going to probably hopefully he doesn't feel as much of the pressure now, because he's got a lot of, they have surrounded him, man. They are not messing around when it comes to Drake May. They are making sure they have the offensive line to give him the best protection possible, the best running backs to take the load off a little bit. Tight end still. We still got Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry. That's great. But we really need to make sure we can find somebody soon, because they're both, last I checked, 30 years old. I don't remember the exact drop off for tight ends, but they got to be getting there. And we definitely could use one at some point, unless someone in this group we have now, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tight ends we have right now, as last I checked. I mean, hopefully one of them can develop some. Maybe Dupree. Dupree's probably got the best chance. I'd even take him over Jaheim Bell, honestly. I'm 100% on that. But this is just solid team. The whole offseason has been so fun. So fun.
Yeah,
man.
I am enjoying this offseason, and I'm so excited for OTAs, and we're definitely going to be discussing moving forward. And by the way, guys, this week is gonna potentially be my final week I'm using this background, as I will be heading back home, and then starting the next semester, I will be gonna be in a different room for my setup for the videos. But I gotta say, I really enjoy doing off-season talks, because overall, from like coaching staffs to then free agencies to then mock drafts to then doing the NFL mock draft breakdowns, it's actually a lot of fun to discuss, considering that even though like going over games, it's very stressful, considering how stressful as Patriots fans we are. I just love discussing content like this, and I can't be even more proud that I have you two as my co-host for today.
Thanks, Dow.
Fun, man. It's been fun.
And
It's been so fun. And I think I can speak for a whole lot of Pats fans when I say I am relieved that the 2025 NFL draft is over, that we now have our class set. Let me give a shout out to Greg Bedard, who is not a guy I have shouted out possibly ever. And he was saying that basically, I'm paraphrasing here, Vrabel gave McDaniels proper tools. Belichick never did. He was such a defensive guy, he gave Patricia, not only gave Patricia the proper tools, made him offensive coordinator after McDaniels skipped town for Vegas to be head coach. Josh McDaniels is one of the most underrated offensive coordinators who ever was. And he could. And that's why, again, a topic for another day, wide receivers. How many are we going to carry? Just a question to think about, not one to talk about right now, but, maybe definitely for another day. I'm very happy to have McDaniels back.
Yeah. And another question is if the wide receivers can at least hit of 1,000 yards for at least once, because we haven't had a 1,000-yard receiving wide receiver in like God knows how long. It was since like Julian Edelman, and that's like 5 years.
It was since Edelman, yeah. I think 2018. Yeah.
But now that we have a better wide receiver crew, can they strive under this whole Josh McDaniels offense, but with some new talent? And I'm so excited for this. But obviously, we want to be cautious as fans, because we do not want to like overhype himself saying that we're going to make the playoffs. We need to see how well this new coaching staff and this new player personnel strives throughout OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and obviously training camp, and obviously the preseason game. So before we jump to conclusions,
I know it's been talked about multiple times.
Edelman in 2019. Edelman.
That we're in new era, over and over and over again. And it just felt like we were getting worse and worse and worse. I think I can confidently.
Edelman in 2019.
Okay, yeah. I think I can confidently say that we're finally entering the 2.0 era of the New England Patriots. What it's going to bring has yet to be seen. But this is finally a brand new team, guys. This is something we have been wanting for a while. We're getting something fresh, something new, getting a bunch of new faces, a bunch of new staff, a bunch of new players, new coaches. We don't know what it's going to be. On paper, yes, it looks great. And I'm excited for training camp. But as DT just brought up, caution. Please have caution. We don't know what's going to happen in training camp or preseason or even before training camp. Something could happen. We just never know. So
you never know. Something could happen before rookie minicamp. Look, I was really excited headed into 2021. And then after 21, I was like, okay, McDaniels is out of town. And then right after that, Kobee Minor is out of town. He follows McDaniels to Vegas. I'm like, okay, we have a coach who's stuck in his ways and has no respect for the modern NFL offense.
Thank you.
The Crafts saw it and canned him. Some of us weren't exactly excited for Mayo and company, but thought, okay, he has a past with the Patriots. He's a defensive guy. And then little did we know DeMarcus Covington would fall flat on his face.
We wanted something new. And I feel like we literally just got the same exact thing, but negative 1,000.
The same exact thing, what?
But like negative 1,000.
Yeah, magnified. Exactly. Magnified, if you can say.
Yeah.
But no, Vrabel is an underrated coach. I mean, Brady's final year here, he took a team, Vrabel did, that on paper, we're talking about on paper again, should have struggled to make an even record. They made it to the AFC Championship game, beating Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson in the process. You don't...
With Ryan Tannehill under center.
With Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback? Who ever talks about Ryan Tannehill now? And he's got Drake May as a guy whose ceiling is Josh Allen as his quarterback. So the sky's the limit. People may just be amiss to undercut Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I just think that overall, before we conclude this live stream, I just think that there's a lot of positives heading into this upcoming season. And there's going to be a lot of naysayers. There's going to be a lot of casuals saying that, oh, this is going to be a bust. But people just don't know football. That's the problem.
Right.
And the fact that we now have a better coaching staff. We obviously have our starting quarterback. We have a lot better player personnel. We have a better coaching staff. I'm excited to see what the schedule is going to look like. And then we are going to move on. And then we're going to head over to like what the offseason will look like and see if what our prediction says is true. But like I alluded to, that we obviously want to stay cautious. We need to see what the schedule looks like. And we need to see how the players react under Mike Vrabel.
And we know he's talk about beating a dead horse using the term culture builder. I did it earlier today, but that's exactly who he is.
100%. Well, that's going to be it for today's live stream. I'm sorry if I'm not going to do call-ins. I just felt like since it's like a long stream, I don't want it to make it longer, and because everybody has different plans. So I'm trying to make sure that it's compatible for everybody, that you at least get some good night's sleep, and at least you have like a great day tomorrow rather than feeling all groggy just because it's a long live stream. But hey, at least you enjoyed these draft grade sessions. At least you enjoyed who our UDFAs topics are and what our confidence for the next season is. But any final thoughts, both of you guys, before we conclude this live stream?
Moonshine, go ahead.
Let's go, Pats. Let's go, Pats. Let's go, Pats.
Let's go, Pats.
Let's go, Pats.
Let's go, Pats. Let's
We
go,
bet.
Pats.
Let's go, Pats. Well,
I was gonna do the same thing, but
anything better than JETS, Jets. Anything better.
oh, I know. So again, they were saying in Pat's press pass, this could be the second team in the AFC East this year. The Dolphins arguably may have gotten worse.
Oh, they definitely got worse.
Oh, 100%.
There's a guy, you might have seen this, DT, and there's a guy I really like over on Chat Sports. His name is Tom Downey. Really good football smarts. He's a Cowboys fan, but he did like the Will Campbell pick. He only gave our draft grade a B. His draft grade for us was a B, and the reason, basically solely, was Julian Ashby. Basically solely.
Well, we shall see, but obviously these are just like early draft grades, but as time goes on,
Right.
over like the next 5 years, things could subject to change. Will some of the guys that we hate on become studs, and will some
Right.
of the
Right.
we think our studs will prolong that success, or will some of the prospects that we think are steals may turn into duds? So we shall see. But likewise, I think that I appreciate everybody for joining today's live stream. Remember to subscribe, like this stream, and remember to turn on the bell for notifications, just because you may never know when the next live stream or video comes out, or especially the shorts.
There you go.
And
as always, let's go, Pats.
Go Pats.
Pats, go. Go, Pats, go.
Go Pats, go. You got it. Dow, thank you so much.